All right, what is going on, everybody? My name is Eric Velasquez, and I am interviewing all the candidates, as many as I can, for the upcoming city elections for San Antonio. Um, the elections will be starting for early voting is April 19th and ends April 27th, and election day is actually May 1st. So right now, we will be talking to a District 2 candidate. We did so earlier as well, so let's jump into it. Hey, Kristi, how are you?
I'm good, Eric. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Good. Yeah, definitely. Thank you for coming on. I know we were supposed to have you on earlier, but then that's when that whole
The storm,
snowvid, snowpocalypse.
Snowmageddon,
Yeah,
Snowmageddon.
right. you know, I it was sad, everything that was happening, and we saw the community rally up together. Um, I I don't want to jump into it, but I do want to jump in. Let's just jump into that
By
whole
all means,
scenario of
let's go.
yeah. So what are some things that you saw that could have been handled differently by the city council, so on and so forth?
So I think first and foremost, because my background is first in communications, I've got to say the communications that came from city officials, but realistically, it was the mayor that was leading that charge for all the communications, and then CPS behind that, and then SAWS. As I watched the information that CPS was putting out, all I kept thinking was, how practical is that for my neighbors? How practical is that for the Miss Bettis or Mr. Gonzalez or Mrs. Jackson that cannot leave their home? And maybe they only leave their home once a month, and they
Mhm.
may or may not be getting deliveries of food. To them, they didn't understand. So I asked my son and my husband for us to kind of just go outside and start walking down the block. Interestingly enough, when the power went out, our area, because I'm right behind the Alamo Dome, so a lot of people thought I would have had power. And the Alamo Dome did, and their lights were on, but I didn't. And no one behind me either. So our power didn't come on until Sunday. I'm sorry, Thursday. Sorry, Thursday. And we went down through some of the houses and said, "Are you okay? What do you need? What's going on?" And everybody was still in really good spirits. Very
Mhm.
cold, but all they needed was like a little bit of water, a little bit of food. I mean, they were doing okay, but just for it to have happen and them not know what's going on. They didn't have smartphones to get
Yeah,
on social media. They
yeah.
they had none of that. And how do you get to those homes to let them know? Two of my neighbors, we had to go to their breaker boxes to switch on the power because they didn't know it was on. Their breaker
Mhm.
tripped.
Mhm.
So they could have gone another week or two and never
Wow.
known.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's the kind of the place that I come from. I grew up in a very small city, not here in San Antonio, just 2 hours south of here, and that's how it's always been. You got to go check on those folks and
Right.
make sure they're in touch.
Yeah,
But
definitely. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, but they could have done a better job of focusing in the language, making sure that, the trucks were out and touching people, because CPS does have additional staff that could have safely gone out there and done something, at least to check on folks.
Mhm. Yeah, and so with that, what are some things that you would like to do if you are elected to kind of bridge that digital divide, right? Of people that don't have access to cell phones and internet. Um, how do you plan on bridging that gap?
Well, the thing we have to go back to is the old-fashioned way is the best way. And before the storm, we should have been better prepared. There should have been people hitting the streets and making sure we were getting something in the newspaper. And the positive thing is look, if the storm isn't that bad, okay, you did all that and it was still a good thing for people. They saw you, they heard you, and you made sure that they were going to be okay. But we would have had more advanced communication if I was the person in council. We would have done it a week in advance, then we would have done it several days in advance, and pray to God that we didn't need any of it.
Yeah, what's that old saying? It's better to have it and not need it than not have it and need it.
Absolutely, darn right.
All right. So, and I do want to make sure I notate that anybody that does want to hop into the conversation, into the live stream, you can. You just by clicking the link down below, you can actually jump in and ask Miss Villanueva a question directly. Just that way, it doesn't get lost in translation when we're trying to look at it on the comments. Because we want to make sure it's an open forum for anybody to share their thoughts, but also do it respectively as well, and keep it to local politics, not national politics. um, Steve Duran says, "What are your thoughts about defunding police?"
So I know this has been going on for a long time, but I look at the big picture of things related to defunding, and I don't agree with it. Defunding is not the answer. Now, do we need to look at policies and procedures? Do we need to look at how we feed on the budget, the police department? Do we need to look at leadership and what's going on? Absolutely. And that, Eric, I'll just go ahead because I know you're probably going to ask me about
Right.
collective bargaining.
Yeah.
That is, I know that a lot of people are very upset about collective bargaining, and it gives the impression that cops are getting away with stuff. But we need to fix what's on the contract. We don't need to completely throw the baby out with the bathwater and get rid of the contract 100%. This is like anything, like in business, like in, buying a home. I need to adjust this language so it'll have X impact. But if I throw the whole contract out, then it's going to have a more significant impact, a negative impact. And I have to kind of preface that by saying, look, my mom worked for the police department as a clerk for 22 years. I grew up in the police department watching all of this go on, people being brought in, paperwork being processed, that sort of stuff. When you don't allow them that collective bargaining piece, because this doesn't just affect the cops, this affects civilian employees, both on police and fire. And those people hardly have a voice already. So we don't want to take even more away from them than they already have. They struggle, and I watched my mom struggle.
Right. And so what do you say to those? Because I think we actually had some of the people from Fix SAPD on here, and they were saying that you repeal the collective bargaining agreement, right? So that way there could be a new one established. So what do you say to that situation?
I don't think to me, that's not the answer today. Now, we all have to collaborate and figure out what the best answer is together. But if we completely take what they're doing, what that referendum is going to do is completely take this off the table. And now we're going to have to rely on the folks at City Hall and others to craft a new one, along with SAPOA. And what are we going to have on this new go round? I mean, that's what concerns me. What other things, now you're giving them time to stick more stuff in that maybe we don't want. And now we've got to go through this whole process again of spending taxpayer money. Hey, I don't think so. Not when you just have to take these two chapters and start making adjustments, make it longer, make it shorter, adjust just the wording and what the impact is. And
Right.
and sorry, before second to that, what they're talking about holding police officers accountable, we have to remember that is a state level issue. So that means we got to partner this piece of redoing those chapters with our legislative officials at the state level.
Right. And I know there are some police accountability groups. They are not for defunding police, um and I don't want to speak for Fix SAPD, and I think they said that they didn't want to do defunding, but I don't know. But there's also that term too, and that has been widely spread out really big. And I know some have said that they don't want to defund; they want to make sure there's accountability. So,
Absolutely. Yes.
I think both sides need to come to some type of agreement. But it seems like nobody wants to hear each other out. That's what it sounds
Exactly.
like.
I agree. And then,
Um,
Eric, and then what we have to remember as all of us that we talk about these issues all the time
mhm,
is the general population. And as I'm knocking on doors, this is what I'm finding. They've probably only heard about 1 to 5% of everything we've said over the last 6 months.
right.
So if
Right.
we get it wrong, this is going to have a bigger impact. And that's what I'm fearful of for our neighborhoods
Mhm.
all across the city.
Yeah, definitely. And even last year when I ran, I know a lot of people were concerned about security and
Hmm.
having the police presence there wasn't enough supposedly, to
Yes.
them. So I don't know. I think there seems to be a couple of different sizes. There's people that just want to live their lives and just make sure they can go to work and do whatever they can. So I think this is definitely gonna create a lot of issue right now, but I think people just want to live their life peacefully. It
Absolutely.
seems like, you know what I mean, which is
Yes.
what it should be. you know. Um,
Exactly.
uh, Jim says, "Why are you the best candidate for District 2?" And there are a lot of people in
Hmm.
this race. So yeah,
Yeah.
what makes you feel like you are the best candidate?
Well, we are in a field of 12 different candidates. So I'm going to say that that is a blessing to District 2 because that means voters have a huge variety to pick from. But at the end of the day, I can tell you, I've got a lot of years ahead of me. So if I could be blessed and stay in this job, it would be fantastic. But on top of that, what the voters want to know is, look, I have a business background. I have been running a chamber of commerce for the last few years. Before that, I was in construction and leadership. I have run volunteer teams. I have run paid teams, large scale. I have run multi-million-dollar construction projects by myself with my team. So that experience really comes in handy in something like this. And then on top of that, I've spent the last 10 years working on policy.
Mhm.
So that's the positive thing. You want somebody not who's going to be throwing parties and who's entitled to this position. You want somebody who's going to walk into City Hall on day one and say, all right, people, let's get to work. We got a lot of work to do, and this is all for our neighborhood. And
Mhm.
and that's why I feel like I'm the best person.
Gotcha. Um, William says that your son is a great community advocate as chief of staff for State Rep Ray Lopez. Kristi brings a wealth of experience and connections that will benefit D2.
Oh, he's
Um,
very kind. Thank you, Will.
Daniel, would you like to come in? Or it doesn't look like you have your mic set up. Um, if you want to come in, you can. Just make sure I would probably drop out and drop back in so you could enable your microphone and video so you can ask a question. Because right now it's showing that you're in, but I can't bring you in because you don't have any mic or audio video set up. So I think this is a response to earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Again, this is the link to jump into the stream. You can come in and actually ask a question directly to Kristi, if you'd like. Let's see here. Steve said that's why she's my candidate.
Thank you,
uh,
Steve.
can
So,
you share your
Eric,
oh, yes,
oh,
yes, yes.
no, 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 I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Say.
No, I was just gonna, since we have a captive audience,
Mhm.
and we were talking about the 12 candidates, a lot of us, all 12, are having issues fundraising because there's so many of us. And it's interesting how this race will play out over the next, what is it, 57 days, I think,
Mhm.
that we have left, because there are a lot of people that normally support candidates, a variety of candidates, and nobody wants to jump in until the runoff.
No,
So that
no.
that's what's interesting here.
Yeah, definitely. Um, eh, why you say that into a runoff? I'm gonna share this piece. I want to get your thoughts on it. So have you heard of ranked choice voting? And if so, what are your thoughts on it? Do you think that's something that we can benefit from here in our city?
So I have heard a little bit about it. I don't know as much as I would like to,
Okay.
honestly. And I think that we need some more, I guess, more expert opinions to get what the positives and negatives are on each of the neighbors. And I say that because within D2, you're talking about people that own $400,000 and $500,000 houses that have been in their homes for 20 and 30 years.
Mhm.
And then you have others that are coming into the neighborhood that are paying anywhere from, gosh, 80,000 to 200,000. So I don't want to have the negative impact on any one particular group, because
Mhm.
I think that there can be a balance without kicking anyone out of their home or the neighborhood, for sure.
Right, definitely. Well, and I'll just kind of explain, especially to everybody watching, because this is new and something that not uh, nobody that I know of that's here is talking about it in the city. But basically, ranked choice voting, um, especially in an issue like this, to where we have, what was it, 12 candidates or 11
Hmm.
candidates.
Hmm.
Um, you would do your first round, right? And keep in
Hmm.
mind, this doesn't mean that people have to vote these many times, right? So everybody does their voting. The first round, since there is no 50% plus one person who has achieved majority, which is just like any other election, nobody wins, right? So we drop the last person that has the lowest amount of percentage, and then we go into round two automatically. And this cycle keeps going until there is a definite winner of the 50 plus 1%. Um, and basically, the way everybody votes is you can vote for your first candidate, your second candidate, your third candidate, so on and so forth.
I see.
And if for some reason your first candidate doesn't make it, then all your votes for your second candidate go in. If those don't go, if that person doesn't win, then the third place, and so on and so forth, until there is a majority winner.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
this would help people, as far as voters go, um, try to have more of a say so in how they want to vote. And then also we wouldn't have a divisiveness that we have right now, because then people would want to have to work together as candidates as well to try to get their second place vote for, for another candidate's voter base.
Right.
So it's something that would help. And the biggest thing is that it would eliminate the need for runoff elections,
Hmm.
which costs the city $8 to $10 million to begin with, and
Yeah.
with low voter turnout. So something like that would help the city a lot, because we could use that money for something else. Um, and we can cut that out, and especially that people having to vote constantly and always feel like they have to vote in runoffs and all this stuff. So is that something that you'd be willing to look at in the future? I know it's
Oh,
nothing that
yeah.
you could vote on, but
Yeah. No, and I apologize before I misheard the question. So yes, so I have heard of this, and I would be, willing to definitely look at this. I think my only concern is I don't want it to be counterintuitive and just be the popular vote. I want for the residents for however if we put this into place, to make sure that we've got an overabundance of facts about each of the candidates out there, so they
Right.
know. Because I don't think today we don't do a good job of that. It's just whoever the majority rallies around. And I
Right.
think we've
Whoever has the
seen
most
that.
money, or
Yes, yes. So
yeah.
if it levels the playing field, by all
Mhm.
means, I mean,
Yeah.
we can head down that road.
Definitely, and that's the reason why I'm doing something like this, because I want to make sure I hit every single person if they're willing to do so, and make sure that everybody has an equal saying, and that's something that I feel
Right.
lacks in our city specifically. But it's always like, oh, it's these two people because they're the ones who have raised the most money, or have the most ties, so to say. So really want to like get out of that mind frame of the city politics that we're in. um Williams says, can you share your thoughts on the Via Link project and if it will expand to other districts?
Okay, sorry. It cut out for just a minute, Eric, but now you're
Oh,
back. So let's see. Can you share your thoughts on Via Link project? Okay, and if it will expand. Yes, so I was on the board for Via Metropolitan Transit as an appointee, along with the Board of Ethics for the city. And, Via Link was in its pilot program for the Northeast at that time. And I can tell you from the inside, as being a board member and a staffer, we were seeing the tremendous impact that Via Link had. So with the referendum that just recently passed, and I know the money won't come to VIA until 2026, there is a lot of opportunity there for the current board members to go to the state and the federal level to advance that program even faster. So VIA Link, for people that don't know, gives on those short trips, it gives people that opportunity to get from point A to point B and not have to wait a longer period of time. And then there's a number of benefits in addition to that. And by the way, I don't get to participate in Via Link, but I am a bus rider. So I ride the 24 and the 20 here and
Oh, hello.
public transit as a
Oh,
whole, both Via Link and Via Trans. Let's not forget that, because that is
mhm.
for our disabled community. In addition to the fixed routes
Oh,
for more
uh,
funding.
oh, sorry, it cut off a little bit. I heard the Via Link and Via Trans. It cut off after that.
Oh, so I said, sorry about that.
Very
The
good.
Via Link and the Via Trans, for people that don't know, is for the elderly and the disabled. And this is why I voted on the board to push more money towards the entire program, all the programs in place, because we need to be able to feed our public transit system, especially now after COVID and especially now after this snowstorm. And they don't have money and they're losing their vehicles. There was no moratorium on vehicle loans. And there's a
Mm,
lot of people suffering that need transportation and they need to go to work.
yeah.
So that's why we need to improve our system, but it will. That was the long way around to say, I know that there will be more money towards our public transportation system, which is fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. And just so y'all know too, the Via Link, they have an app. I don't know if you can see it. Probably not. But it's an app that you can download, and it's kind of like Uber, where a van will
Mhm.
come to, I think it's still the bus stop though, right?
Yes, you
This, yeah,
still go to like a main hub,
yeah.
um, but it tells you where the closest one is, and it's normally closer than your bus stop.
Hmm. Exactly. Um, all right. Oh, there was some other questions here. What can be done to curb the burgeoning violence problem in District 2?
That's a tough one. So we have a variety of things that are going on, and what a lot of folks I think are having trouble sorting out is that one thing kind of plays off of another. And I'll give you kind of a much lesser example on one extreme. On my street, I have 3 short-term rentals. That's kind of like a bed and breakfast, or you rent it for the day, the weekend, what have you. The people that own those homes they don't know who's renting this other than their name and what have you, and you leave a deposit. I have had 2 shootings on my block in the last 6 months. I have had a ton of issues where I've had to call the police because of suspicious activity. I'm not going to let my teenager go out. I don't even want him to drive, because coming in and out, he could run into some of these things. When I speak to my elderly neighbors, they also have concerns with the short-term rentals, but because of our zoning, there's nothing we can do about it, literally.
Mhm.
So that's one extreme. And those short-term rentals could produce violent acts at different levels. We just, that's kind of that unknown. On the other side of that, we do have pockets of gang activity, a lot of shootings. I mean, every week we have a shooting, within about 10, 12 blocks from here in particular pockets. and the police are responding. I see them come through here all the time. I'm on 4 different community apps where I see the different calls come through. And, that's another extreme that we need the police directly to handle that. That's not Health and Human Services. That's not a counselor. That is a police issue. And then the third thing, kind of another tier to that, is unfortunately with our homelessness, they are looking, for a little bit of food, a little bit of shelter, and they are going and becoming, in some cases, it's becoming an issue because they're or I shouldn't say burglarizing, but they're going into people's yards and taking things. They're taking tools, they're looking for food, they're getting on private property and then just taking what they need and leaving. And all that's being reported, but it's a serious issue. That is still a safety concern for all parties at
Mhm.
hand. And kids aren't coming out. Neighbors aren't coming out of their houses. They've said it to me and to my team directly. We just live in our house. Go to the
Yeah.
store, we come back and lock ourselves in. What kind of quality of life is that?
So what's your vision to kind of help this homeless or houseless situation? Because I mean, it's getting out of hand, right?
Hmm.
It seems like recently, right after, was it right before
Oh, when they did
the
the sweep with
when they did
Trevino and
this?
all that
Yeah.
craziness?
So
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
was right before.
yeah. So I mean, that's not gonna do anything. I mean, it's just gonna push them around and stuff like that. So I mean, what's your vision to help change this environment? To help them, but also help the citizens, because it seems like they really only care about, from the public's eye, it seems like they only care about the voters or the people who have a home. That's all they're really caring about, and they're just, well, let's
Hmm.
just move it to somewhere else. That's the perception that people are having. So
Right, right.
what's your vision for that?
Yeah, and there's also a fear that they're just going to take all these homeless and move them to another pocket of town,
Hmm.
and then it becomes someone else's problem. So, yeah, I think the issue is we all have to come to the table with open minds and really figure this out, because I admire all the folks that have been out there protesting and providing food and shelter for the homeless, even if they're just giving them tents and and a warm bowl of soup. But that doesn't help our problem. That just kind of kicks the can down the road, basically. And the thing is there's a lot of neighbors that have some great ideas. So my vision is to resurrect a lot of those plans that have been written up and combine them and have our neighbors come to the table along with many of those churches and many of those community folks and counselors that are seeing things and talking to people firsthand, and then crafting a better plan for the neighborhood, like a long-term strategy. One of the problems is you get into council, you're only there 2 years, and you
Yeah.
seriously cannot do everything. You can't.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I mean that so then everyone looks unsuccessful. And
Hmm.
my thing is I'm not doing it for the credit, and I'm definitely not doing it for the money,
Hmm.
because it needs to be about the plan that's going to live with the neighborhoods. So we've got to figure out and set realistic time limits, because there's some people that we can help right off the bat, put them back on track. There's other people that are going to take a little bit longer to make that adjustment depending on what their situation is. And
Hmm.
then we have to come to the realization that there's a whole other group that just says, I don't want your help. I want to live off the grid. I like my life this way. And there's nothing you can do to change it. So the thing, Eric, is me as a business professional, you, the mayor, we can't make that judgment call for that person.
Right.
We have to have a solid professional that has experience to help us make that decision. And I don't think we're listening to them enough in
Hmm.
in order to do the right thing and put this plan into motion. into forward motion.
Right. And it always seems that the government tends to do like a one size fits all approach. And
Yeah. Yeah.
these are definitely not it.
Mm-mm.
It's like, oh, let's just clear the encampment, but okay. It's not doing,
Yeah.
what's going on with Haven for Hope? What is going on with all these things? And I actually had the owner reach out to me last year when I was doing my campaign, and the owner for Comfort Cafe. I don't know if you've ever been to Comfort Cafe
I
before.
have. Yes.
And
Yes.
she was like, we bought land over by the medical center, and we want to build a community, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that way
Yeah.
people that are houseless can go over there, and they can try to get those skills or whatever while they're living there.
Yes.
And they kept getting shut down because people in the area don't want those people there. So
Right. And there's a lot of fear that's built around that. Oh my God, you're bringing the homeless folks. Then I'm going to call the police. I'm going to call the city. And realistically, you know what I like about that program actually is that they're trying to help people come out of homelessness, but in a mentorship and leadership style, which is exactly what we need. You almost need another homeless or former homeless person,
yeah,
former vet, former single mother, former drug addict to say, look, I get it. This is what I went through. And let me connect with you specifically. Because again, it's not going to be the council person, it's not going to be the police officer. It's someone who relates, and we as council people should support them in
right.
what they're doing because they have stats. I mean, they've
hmm
got their stuff is proven.
They're doing the work. They're doing the work. They're
Yeah,
down on the ground, and they're seeing all these things. And you know, as a city council or city government, I mean, you kind of have to look at those things and not just
absolutely.
say, "Oh, I got the answer. Let's do it this way."
And so that's not me. I'm not coming to the table with all the answers. I'm coming with an open mind to tell you, I bet I can find not just one expert, but a handful of experts and not people that were hiring this company or that company.
Mhm.
It's about people that really care and have dedicated their entire lives to this segment of the population. And
Right.
let's make them good, progressive people. I mean, those are, at the end of the day, hey, you know what? We're people. This isn't about race. This isn't about our financial status. This isn't about what we control. We're just people and we're trying to live our lives here.
Mhm. Um. DC Jimenez says, "What is your position in regards to the 1A sales tax and Nuremberg hanging onto it for 3 years?"
Well, well, I think that there are some issues with the fact that everyone needed to contribute to this piece. I didn't think that there was input from, uh, I respect Mayor Nuremberg, but I think that there was more to this story than the general public was hearing. And I really wish that other colleagues, people on council, would have been able to contribute to that because we might have had some progress on a whole lot of other programs
Mhm.
that this would have benefited specifically.
Gotcha. Jeremy says, "What's your view on THC and CBD oil use by the youth?"
Oh, that's really, really tough. I have a 16-year-old, so I'm living this every day. Um, I think if something like this were possibly combined, I mean, realistically, I don't know that that would be to me, that's not something that would come before council. Um, but as a mother, so let me just talk to you as a mother. If I needed to take my son to get some sort of counseling or therapy, and this was recommended, and they were monitoring my son, and then they had the facts behind it that said that it made improvements, would I consider it? Sure, I would consider it. I would be open-minded because all I'm trying to do is help my son,
Mm.
without giving him more drugs
Yeah.
or, more things from the doctor that they're trying to keep our kids calm. And I mean,
Mm.
I don't know if you remember, Eric. Well, you're probably much younger than I am, but there was no ADD and ADHD. There was a
No, there wasn't.
there was a belt. That's what there was, a
Yeah.
belt or a chancla
Don't
that
be
fixed that.
stupid. Don't be stupid.
But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, there
Yeah.
there are a lot of things, and this is now becoming a tradition, and it's actually helping, many of our vets. It's helping many people, kind of ease their anxiety. If it does well and it's safe and it's monitored by some sort of a doctor, a licensed physician is what I'm hoping, then, I think that's a good thing. I'm open to it.
Gotcha. William says, I attended many of your past chamber events. How can you use your networking and team building strategies from your time at the West Chamber to benefit D2?
Oh, thank you. Well, we had a great time with all of our luncheons and breakfasts, and my goal was always to bring education to the table for everyone to then decide what direction they wanted to go. So I think with all those contacts that I made at the chamber, which were local, state, and federal level contacts, I really believe that we can take the issues to the next level, because that's what we've been missing. We have some great plans in place, but they don't ever seem to get the legs to have the ultimate effect. And we need to make sure to utilize all of our contacts. So I've reached out to my contacts at various levels and said, if I get there, when I get there, will you be there to support me in this role of office and help me take policy to the next level? Help me develop things that are positive for the community, and I've gotten a resounding yes, to all that. But that's what it's going to take, is leveraging your relationships and communication. That's probably the biggest barrier, Eric, that I've seen
Mhm.
across the board, is you see an issue one way, I see it another. And if you and I are not willing to negotiate, and we're
Right.
just putting our egos in front, then forget it. We might as well
Right.
not even start it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna bring this question because you were talking about the leveraging and your contacts and everything. What can you tell the voters of D2 to let them know that you are on their side and you will not fall to any type of like a corruption to because that is on a lot of people's minds, right? They see,
Mhm.
oh well, they're connected and they don't really care about us and it's just about who they know and all that. So
Mhm.
what can you
Yeah,
do to say, to guarantee to those people, to say, look, it is about you and not about me or whatever people that I know, and yet you're not going to be in anybody's pockets.
absolutely. Well, I think just recently, I know there probably wasn't a whole lot revealed or much that I could say. Um, but the proof, I had several articles written where I was quoted in the last year. I was tough. A lot of, a lot of my VIA fellow trustees, always, they were very nice, and they entertained the conversation because I love to push back. But they always said, you can count on Kristi to not give in, and you can count on her to always have a very spirited conversation. That was very nice and politically correct of them to say, because at the end of the day, it's like, you know what? No, I don't care about the future of politics. I'm not worried about that I'm going to get to the next level. It's about that we need to take care of our neighbors today. We need to figure out. And then I would always get hit with, well, you look like you're doing well. You look like you probably don't have a care in the world. You know what? Let's talk about where I came from. I came from a very poor neighborhood with a single mother who raised me and my two brothers. Then I happened to have gone on and become a single mother myself of two. And hey, that was tough because I had issues with getting a job, with keeping a job, with paying my rent, all that stuff that we talk about. in the news and amongst our groups,
Mhm.
sometimes I don't say anything because that was me. That was me. And I had to change a series of things and I had to get to know people, open myself up to really focus in on where am I going and what am I doing. So when I say it's for the people and I'm ready to push back, I am. That the only
Yeah.
consequence to that is, look, my campaign team has already received several threats, like
Mhm.
physical threats. So if I fall off the face of the earth, let this podcast be be on
Right?
the record. No, but seriously, it's stuff like that is
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
devastated. Like, hey, this is, you got to chill out. We're just trying to do
Yeah.
the best we can for our neighbors and not,
Exactly.
we're not trying to take over the world.
Right. That's definitely true. That's something that I told my people too. Is I'm like, look, last year because I'm very much go against the status quo, right? And I
Yeah.
was like, if something's gonna happen to me, it's because of that. Because
Yes.
you know, I don't like the way things are headed. I don't like the way our national politics are headed because money is playing a big factor. And even in the parties, it's just trash. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, not regardless of whatever party you're within, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Green. I mean, they're all you know the two main parties have a lot of issues that I see, and it's frustrating.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we really need to make sure we get on that and still fight for the people. And I think
Hmm.
people are scared of that because
Oh, yeah.
you know it's scary because you don't know what could happen.
No, absolutely. You have to be watching your back all the time.
Right.
And I'm very fearful for myself and my son, my family. I
Hmm.
have a brand new granddaughter. I mean, I want all of them to be happy and healthy,
Hmm.
but I also
Right.
want the same thing for my neighbors. So I'm
Right.
willing to fight and go against the system. Um, I'm also willing to negotiate and make sure that we're in a better place tomorrow for what we're doing today. And
Right.
I want to give some new people an opportunity. You don't even realize how hard, Eric, it was for me to fight to get that position on VIA. To
Mm.
have someone give me a chance and just listen to me for a few minutes to say, I am a good fit for that board. I
Right.
mean, it was tough because really it's all about leverage and who you know.
Right. Yeah, and that's why I brought up that question is because a lot of people are upset with these boards and the way they're being picked, and the
Hmm.
people that are being picked because they feel like it's, oh well, they're all friends and things like that. So
Hmm.
it's definitely something that people want to know is how true candidates are. Um,
Yeah.
Bridging the gap. Hey, what's going on? Um, we are already starting doing. We already started doing small homes project for the homeless a little more than a year
Hmm.
ago until the city shut the project down. So we are on hold before we continue moving until the city allows this project to continue on. So our moving, so our moving, but red tape stops progress.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I think that's also with Sal and Jimmy Robles down there. So
Hmm.
um, I there's a big issue with that, right? Because of the red tapes and everything,
Yeah.
and I know we kind of touched on it, but with something like that, I mean, what can you do to help that situation or offer
So
advice to those people?
I don't want to take it down a bad road, but I do always tell people, look, one council person can't do it all. Like
Mhm.
what they're talking about in fixing their red tape. Let's say I was a council person today. I really need to go get other council members to join the fight. I have to give them a reason to pick up that momentum and run with it because I know that I've seen personally because I'm in construction now that a lot has changed it seems with the city staff, how they do their permitting, the willingness to work with you and kind of explain things. They don't seem to be doing that and I'm not sure
Mm.
why. But that's why we have to empower the council members with more information. I need to know from the business community what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what the goal is. And then definitely play devil's advocate. Tell me what is wrong. You put the holes in your own plan so
Mm,
we know how to fix them. And then that will make that council person stronger so we can go fight the good fight. Because
right.
behind the scenes, there's a lot that goes on, and we need to make sure that we have all those facts almost right there, right at our fingertips, like talking points,
Right.
and that they're verified. It's verified information. I had the same conversation with um, two developers that are only about 6 blocks away from me, developing 10 different homes right now. And I told them, look, I don't know how I feel about developers as a whole, but I know we need for you to be good stewards in our
Mm,
neighborhood.
mhm.
So they laid out what they did. They were able to show me their plans. And I said, so have you ever thought about walking districts? Lighting up the neighborhood so we can go out and walk and maybe host our own neighborhood events. And then they sent me an ungodly amount of emails to say where they had tried, where they had taken it to the city, and where they were turned down. They were paying for lighting. They were paying for that infrastructure, and they were turned down over and over. And you know what? I would have actually probably not believed them if they hadn't shown me proof from actual city emails that say no, we're not we don't want that. And so they had me actually kind of walk here on the east side. There's a lot of alleys. Those
Mm,
alleys are covered, even though you can drive through them. They're just a mess for junk, trees. They're dark. They're not safe. And they showed me what their rendering was, and I thought, this is what I want. This is what I've
mm.
always wanted. Just, I want to go walk my neighborhood. I want to see other people. We need that to live and to thrive. So that's something that I am dead set on doing.
Wow,
Safety and lighting, it's a big deal to me.
that's that's mind blowing. Especially because I had just posted an article that was on the news that the city gave $7.5 million in subsidies to the Weston Urban apartment on Houston, and it was
Right.
like there was $1 million for the TERS from the TERS, and then the 6.5 in reduction in property taxes and
Yeah,
all that stuff.
right. But
And
if
they're not.
we don't challenge those people, and that's the thing. So look, back to VIA. When I was on VIA, and I would participate in a lot of those development conversations, um, because there's transit oriented development that can be done through VIA that will be less cost and more efficient and has a variety of things. But unless you're pushing back on those developers, and unless you're telling the engineers and the architects, I got what you said, and this is a pretty expensive bill, but what are we going to get in addition to that? Where are the reusable materials? Where are you going to engage the community? How are you going to engage the artists in the community? I mean, otherwise, they've got this one track mind. They're not bad people. I don't want to say that. But we have to push that level of thinking to further than where we've been, because that will then help everybody. Help
Yeah,
everybody in the community. So
right.
that gang member that has let's say, has a talent for art, that he or she can start moving away and
Mm,
say, look, now I met these new people and look at the opportunities that they're giving me. I
right.
mean, and we can all be mentors in the community. That's, in the 70s and 80s and 90s, that's what it used to be. It
Mm.
used to be a lot about that person, that Theo, that Thea, that neighbor that you knew. They just gave you that little spark to say, hey, wait, I could do it too.
Right. Exactly. Samantha, yeah, she did so much for education for the West San Antonio Chamber, and so much I wasn't able to take advantage of.
So Samantha is a small business owner, and she's talking about, I always had lunch sessions for business owners, because it doesn't matter
Mm,
if you've owned a business 10 years or 50 years, you still need to kind of come back to the table and regroup, kind of reset your
right.
mind. And that way you can adjust to the new generation of workforce that you are, because as a business owner, you serve them, they serve your customers,
Right.
and it all kind of trickles out. So I would want to keep that going. I would want to be supportive of other nonprofits in the community that are willing to do that for our neighbors.
Yeah, and that was the sad thing when all this the PPP loans and everything, District 3 and District 2 didn't have very many applicants because they didn't know that this was going
Well,
on, and they didn't know that they can apply for these things.
well, it's even more than that. It's not that they didn't know. A lot of them, because I got really intimate with some of my business owners to say, you know what, I'm fighting for you. You want access to capital. Why aren't you doing it? And then they were finally telling me, well, our books aren't straight. We
Mm,
haven't done our taxes. And I can't afford it. And it's going to take several $100s. And it's just, they're
mm,
overwhelmed. So that's another level that, no one's talking about either.
that's true.
And, and
Honestly,
it's,
I never heard that part, and that's wow.
well, and that's why I say I feel like I'm the most qualified, because I have literally been that close to our business owners, our small business owners. That's what our chamber was dedicated to, small and
Mm,
medium size. And
mm,
we were trying to figure out what the solutions were. But it's like the homelessness. Do you want to do it? Do you not want to do it? I'm going to put all this out there for you. You go pick whatever you want, and I'm going to support you in it. But if you
yeah.
choose not to take that step, then I've got to move on to the next business that wants and needs that help.
Mm.
So Samantha knows I would call her. I was just following her like crazy. Come and join us. Come and join us.
These will be there to support you, Kristi.
Oh, thank you.
Kristi is one of the hardest working women I've met. She impresses me with her intelligence and her moxie. Oh, moxie! Bust out the moxie. Um, Daniel says, has Kristi ever heard of strongtowns.org? They write about what she complained about all the time and about the communities across the country.
No, but I'm going to look that up. Thank you. I will
uh,
definitely use that.
eh, just real quick, changing gears. I want to know, what are your top 3 favorite small business restaurants in D2? In D2.
Oh, golly. Oh
And
my
it's okay.
gosh.
You don't feel like you're gonna get in trouble, because we should all be supporting these small businesses anyway.
Yeah.
Disclaimer: don't get offended if she doesn't pick you. Just I mean,
Well, okay,
yeah.
so I can't think of the full name of the first one. I just know how to go there in my sleep. Basically, at 6 o'clock in the morning, my truck just drives there, and it's on Cesar Chavez and Hackberry. It's a little taqueria. It's right next door to Tony G's, and they are so nice to me, and I just love them to death. Oh my gosh. Because the lady sees me and she immediately comes to bring my coffee, and she already knows because I order the same plate all the time. But they are there. It's a tiny taqueria, and they have the best barbacoa and menudo, and so that's one.
Nice.
If I want to get a little, kind of trendy and hang out with millennials and just, kind of get a little more action, then I go over to Dignity Meats. And
Okay.
I like their vibe. I like the entrepreneurial spirit that group of people has put together. They're just, I mean, I can't say enough about those kids, and that's what they are to me. They're kids. And then,
Don't you feel it feels so weird to be ordering from some of those places, because I'm like, man, I am so out of place here. I I got the dad shorts going on, or whatever it is. I'm like, I should not be here, but I want to try this.
well, I took a page out of my mom's book, because there was times like on a Saturday or Sunday where we were cleaning the house all day, that whole traditional thing, and she'd be in rollers and her little handkerchief, covering the rollers. And she'd be like, let's go. Let's do this. Like, come on, mom. If you can rock those rollers, you know what? I
Right.
can go.
There you go. And
Uh,
what's your third one?
oh gosh, man. That I've been hopping around to so many different ones. People are probably going to be mad at me because I'm going to say the that they're a subset of Bill Miller's, that Laguna fish place. Because I haven't found an well, no, I'll take it back. When Ma Harper's was here in D2,
Uh,
she's not in D2 anymore. That was my favorite fish place. I have now had to go to Laguna because Ma's is too far.
hmm.
But Ma Harper's was super good. Oh my gosh, that catfish and was amazing.
So, Dignity Meats, and then Jamie says it was Taqueria Vallarta. I can't
Yes,
say it.
yes, that's
I'm
what.
so yeah.
Yeah, Taqueria
Oh,
Vallarta.
oh, Laguna Madre. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Laguna Madre. I've had to
Okay.
resort to Laguna Madre.
um yeah, definitely. And we should definitely make sure we stop by these small businesses. You know, they
Yes.
definitely need our help. Um and hopefully, you know, try to get them on the right path, and
Hmm.
you know what I mean?
Yes.
Um what was I going to say? Sorry, I know we're running a little bit long.
No, it's okay.
If anybody has a question, please feel free to jump in and ask a question directly. You can follow the link that I posted up a little bit up above, and then or you could just do a comment on the comment box. What are some of the things that you think that are not being utilized in District 2, like some of the structures or a program that's not being utilized to its fullest potential in D2?
So I think the small business support is not being nurtured here. There's a lot of small businesses that need help, small and medium size, those second tier companies that are already fairly well established, they have access to capital, they are ready to go kind of to that next level. We are absolutely not giving them an opportunity as on the city contracts where the GCs are picking different companies. They kind of stick to their little group. And we've got so many more companies, both in D2 and throughout the city, that just need that chance.
Mm,
And I say that because as I went through it myself in a previous job, and I continue to see it, when those jock contracts come up, they normally award the jock contract to 3 different businesses. And they count that, the city counts that as, all right, we're participating in small minority, African American, veteran owned. So they won. So we're counting those points. But that's not fair because they are not the ones actually physically getting the contracts and getting paid
mm,
for the work.
mm,
That's where we should count our points. Did they actually execute and do the work? The other thing I see Jamie commented, Workforce Solutions. So
mm.
do you know that Workforce Solutions, it's a great place to get training. They've got a ton of other resources. But if you go to the one in D2, you're they're gonna check you in, do all the stuff, and then to get the services, you got to go to another place. So they are not being supported in D2
Mm,
if we're not walking in the door and telling them, I'm here for services, I'm here for training. Well, they're going to put their resources in another part of the city.
right.
So we've got to get that going. The other thing that I used to do that I was not allowed to do in, what do you call it? I did it all over the city was active shooter training.
Mm,
I love education, any kind, any type, but active shooter training is a big deal. I
mhm.
actually did that with a couple of people from the sheriff's department, and it was unbelievable that I was not allowed to come and do it here in D2. Nobody would help me. So
Wow. And I think something that's not talked about is gun safety, just in general. Um,
safety in general.
you know, I do carry, but I do believe really heavily in training and safety. Um,
Yes.
because if you don't, then yeah, I mean, there's definitely these things are going to happen, and they're gonna fall into bad people's hands, and your kids as well. That's the big thing. Is
Yeah.
I have 2 little ones, so I definitely don't want to, that to fall into their hands. So I think we don't talk about those things. But yeah, that's a shame that they didn't let you do that in D2.
Yeah. No, and I went to the college. I also went to our council person. Um, I went to several people to help me, and
Hmm.
it wasn't a success. And I took this class all the way to Live Oak.
Oh
I was
wow.
all over with it for 3 years. So
That.
I see somebody wants to talk about the land value tax.
Mhm.
Okay. Have
So I'm
I heard
it
of it? Yes.
yeah. Um, do you think those appraisals are getting out of hand?
Yes, yes. The appraisals are getting out of hand, but there is a way to get in control of it. It is going to take a little bit of time. And remember, we've got to have cooperation from Bexar County commissioners. And so,
Oh,
sorry, all of a sudden my phone is ringing like crazy.
oh,
Um,
I can't see the video. Yeah.
oh, sorry. Let's
I
see.
You might need to do your cam
Oh,
to start the
oh,
cam.
yes.
There we go. All
I need to
right.
stop pressing it so many times. That's what I was doing. So, remember we need to establish our homestead for those that actually own our homes. But what I found out, Eric, that I did not know was that more than 30% of the people that are in D2 are renters. So that then impacts our landlords. Hey, the landlords can't do, as you probably know, they can't do anything about their taxes. So then that is passed on to that renter. So what we need to do is educate people on how do they get their first home, even if it's kind of a smaller home for a little bit less money, but they could be on their way to establishing themselves. So, financial education, I think, is a big deal. And I
Right.
want to be able to host it, but I don't want to treat this job like a chamber. I want to treat it for what it is. But if those are the resources that are needed for our neighbors, then that's what we need to do to make it a better community. And
Right.
then and then on the other side, unfortunately, we got to do the paperwork related to fighting the taxes and making sure that we are showing that our houses are appraised at the right value. I'm a
Right.
victim of it too. I have fought it and lost twice, which makes me very mad, but
Right.
I'm going to keep trying. And
Yeah.
so that's why I say that I definitely relate to my neighbors, all of them.
Yeah, definitely. And for anybody who hasn't done your protesting taxes, should do it every single year.
Hmm.
On that website that I have there down below at bcad.org, you should be getting your appraisal here pretty soon in the mail.
Yeah.
And if anybody from BCAD is watching, can you please send an email for when your formal protest is going to happen? Um, it's something
Yes.
as simple as that, because I actually didn't receive my interview time, and I didn't go to it because I had no idea.
Yep.
But they sent me an email saying that, oh, your case is closed. So
Yeah. Yeah. And
you
you
say
know what? Good working people don't have time to be chasing after Bexar
right,
County and city folks.
exactly.
Yeah.
So definitely do that, and just protest them every single year.
Yeah.
Uh, let's see here. Oh, that's the website for the injury gun safety. Um,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of the owners don't live here in Texas. Yes, that is true. They
That's
are
true.
investors. Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm assuming it's kind of like ERCOT. A lot of them live outside of Texas.
So, so there's a kind of a phrase that I've been kind of putting out there, and I know people don't like it. The East Side, District 2, right now at all levels, whether we're talking about crime, taxes, home ownership, um, people moving in and buying up the property. It's like the wild, wild west. Okay.
Mm, yeah.
That's the best way to say it. If we don't get a hold of it and somebody doesn't kind of start managing it and then taking that information and talking to people to say, all right, county, how can we work together? County Commissioner Calvert or others, what can we do? What do we leverage? Sometimes it
Yeah.
just takes a good idea. And, for me, let them take the credit for it. I don't care. I don't care who takes the credit for it as long as it helps the neighbors today and for their future. We've got to get it going. I mean,
Something's not working. It's not
yes,
working
yeah.
what we're doing.
No, absolutely. So, and that's the thing. We've seen the same thing for the last 10, 15 years.
Mhm.
D2 has been stagnant. Yes, I will absolutely acknowledge that we received federal dollars here, but as fast as it came in, it was
Mhm.
gone. It was
Right.
spent. And now
Right.
what? We have nothing, and other parts of the city are progressing, and we're not. So we need
You,
to come together.
somebody brought up a really good point, and this kind of made some waves in my thought of thinking, which is it's obvious, but until you really think about it, a lot of the other neighborhoods, like the north side, right? There's a lot of neighborhood associations, right?
Hmm.
There's a ton, and they all work together, and they call on the council people to fix some of these things, right?
Right.
But does D2 have that same reliability, those same network of groups that really get down to it to reach out to their council people? And is that why it's not getting done if they don't?
So from what I've seen, and only from really when I hit the streets, so in the Near East Side, you have a number of neighborhood associations and nonprofit organizations. They're the ones making all the noise. That is less than 29% of the voting population
Mhm.
for the entire District 2. The rest of it, I mean, once you move past New Braunfels, it gets less and less and less. And then once you get to the northeast side, forget it. I mean, it's just not enough people are participating. And at the end of the day, they're saying, you know what? Nobody cares. My vote doesn't matter. I'm tired of doing things. I just spoke to a woman the other day who works at Port San Antonio but lives in D2,
Mhm.
and she said, I have completely given up. I'm tired of people racing, whether in motorcycles or cars, down my street. I'm tired of, basically being neglected by my city council person, the team, not the council
Yeah, yeah,
person, and
yeah.
being ignored by the what do you call it? The other city folks. Oh my gosh, my mind just went blank. They give the tickets, when you have trash
Oh,
and
the code compliance. Mhm.
co-compliance, yeah.
Yeah.
She said, I don't feel like anything's being done and there's no lifeline. And
Mhm.
I agreed. I told her I had to go to another council district to get an issue fixed with my trash. I did. That's an honest answer. It's on the
Yeah.
record. I mean, I
Yeah.
know you got to be responsive. You got to have a team with experience. You got to know what you're doing. And for God's sake, you got to answer the phone. I get it.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely one of the issues. So so awesome. Well, how can people get a hold of you? How can people help your campaign? And what else, is there something that you would like people to know about your campaign and about you itself?
So I always welcome anybody wanting to talk. I will go to your neighborhood association. I will go have coffee with you. I will meet you out at a park. Let's get a group together and start talking about issues. Whether I am the next D2 council person or not, I still want to be active and I still want to be helpful. I want to utilize my contacts. I have asked people on social media, please dedicate $10 a week and donate to the campaign. It's really tough to raise money these days, and $5 or $10 goes a long way to helping folks. I have volunteer positions and I have paid positions for both block walkers and phone bakers that's available. But you can reach me at KristiVillanueva.com, and that's KRISTI VILLANUEVA.com, or you can email me at kgv@KristiVillanueva.com. So I'm happy to talk to anybody. I want to get out there. I want to get to know everybody. This is really about a better quality of life for all of us, no matter who you are or where you live in the district. I'm happy to help, and even help people outside of the district.
Awesome. Is that website look okay? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm older, Eric. I got to put on my reading glasses.
Oh, me too. That's so the
yeah.
monitors are okay. Yeah, because don't you do like a radio show as well, or no?
So I did join a friend for about a year, and
Okay.
we were working on a radio show. That was his show. I was just kind of a semi-permanent co-host, and I love that. We had a lot of fun. I also had, through the chamber, we did a mental health series, a weekly series with a counselor, and we talked about how important it is, no matter what level of income or who you are, that recharging your brain, making
Yeah.
sure you're centered and focused. That's the only way you can be good to other people, is to be
Right.
good to yourself first.
Exactly. Savannah, I love the way Kristi has done her homework on the area and understands the needs. Great work. You do care about the community. All right. Well, if nobody has any more questions, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. And I appreciate for you just say it's. I know it's a long conversation, but that's the whole purpose of these, just to have a real good conversation and try to get to know more about you and it shows when you speak and everything. So definitely thank you for coming on. Thank you everybody for joining. Before I forget, I want to make sure, because I said I was going to do this on all the live streams. If you are a renter or you have an issue with your home, your home insurance, your automobile insurance, any insurance, medical insurance, please contact Texas Department of Insurance. It's tdi.texas.gov. Especially with what had happened recently with the snowstorm, and they're not helping you as far as your renter's insurance, this group might be able to help you navigate that whole structure, because they will contact the insurance company for you and kind of help you navigate and give you that insurance jargon that we don't know, to kind of maybe come up with a better solution, just telling you, sorry, it's not covered. So definitely make sure you contact that. And again, it works for any insurance issue that you may have.
Yeah.
Jeremy says peer-to-peer energy sharing. I think he did have that question earlier.
Energy
do you have any thoughts on peer-to-peer energy sharing?
So are we talking about energy like electricity, or energy like mental health energy?
Yeah. I'm not sure.
If it's energy like from the grid and stuff like that, I mean, there's a ton of programs. The West Chamber was one of the solar. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So West Chamber was one of the first ones to pass to support the Climate Action Adaptation Plan. There was a lot of work that went into that, and I know sometimes people, when they see the environmentalists coming, they take a step back. And I took about 5 steps forward and really dove in and realized that there are not enough individuals from the community. There's not enough small businesses in there to give their part. I have solar panels. I can tell you that is a love-hate relationship for me. For me personally. Do I like it across the board? Yes, I think we need to find spaces where neighborhoods can share in that energy cost, and if it drives down the bill, absolutely. But remember, even though solar is wonderful, their alternative fuels give us a lot, and they give us a new opportunity to clean up the air. it's those other consequences, like that when the snowstorm hit. What do we need to do, and how much money is it going to take to make sure that all that stuff is up and running and we have the enough battery life stored in order to keep our houses running? And that's what concerns me. Batteries in general, like a generator for your home, for storage, the technology isn't where it should be, but it doesn't mean it's not good because,
Right.
hey, in a year, in 6 months, who knows? People all of a sudden fix the bug and it turns around everything, in a week. So next year, maybe the batteries will be better. For sure, in a couple of years, I'm sure they will be. And we'll be able to do more of this. That's where we're going towards.
Yeah. I mean, we have Elon Musk in Texas now, so I mean,
Heck yeah. I wish he would have come to San Antonio, not Austin, but hey, we'll get him here.
As long as it doesn't sacrifice the livelihood of our residents. That's the
Yes.
biggest thing is that was one of the questions too, is like, yeah, we are pushing for business and corporations to come here, but at what cost? Yeah, we have Amazon coming, but is that going to be beneficial? Because we've seen a lot of issues where Amazon comes to an area, especially maybe a neighborhood that maybe a lower income,
Mhm.
and it doesn't help the people there
Right.
because they're just hiring from everywhere, and it's not, the direct impact is not helping those people there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No, and we're giving them a lot of tax breaks on top of that, and we don't do it
yeah,
for small or medium-sized businesses. So that's a
exactly.
problem. No, and I
Right.
don't, definitely not for that. Take people from the neighborhood and they get stuck in those jobs. And that's not the purpose. That's a stepping stone. That's like a forever spot.
Right, exactly. Well, thank you, Kristi. I appreciate you staying on. Thank you, everybody, for joining and just being active and asking these questions, because this is what we really need, to just be active. Take that energy with you to the voting polls, and just start getting to know more of the candidates and everything like that. And reach out to her if you have a question. And yeah, definitely. So thank you, everybody. We appreciate you. And then again, next week, since it is spring break, I'm going to do a couple of the school board candidates. That's something we really need to focus on as well, the school board trustees and the school board candidates, because I'll be honest with you, I have slacked on that. I need to know what they're doing. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people are in that same boat. So let's do that. Let's start that conversation, find out who we're putting in this people's path for our kids, So, but thank you, Kristi. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Yes.